Multiple officers shot, 2 suspects killed. It was a very violent bank robbery. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of the Norco Shootout. Viewer discretion is advised. The story takes us to the city of Norco, California, which is located in Riverside County, California. It was May 9th, 1980. Approximately 3:40 p.m., 911 receives a phone call about a potential bank robbery. The call was actually made by another bank that was across the street from the one that was being potentially robbed. The bank that was being robbed was the Security Pacific Bank. When that call came in, the dispatch went out to all the officers, and Deputy Glenn Belaski was actually really close. He was actually at a stoplight just right by the bank. And so he gets there first. So what actually occurred was that there were 5 total bank robbers, and 4 of them entered the bank armed with a lot of weapons. There was a lookout sitting in the van that the robbers all came in who spotted the officer and immediately radioed into the other 4 men. "We've been spotted. You gotta go. We gotta go. Let's go. Let's get out of here." So as the 4 robbers, who had taken roughly $20,000 in cash during this bank robbery, they run out, they see Deputy Belaski, and they fire their shotguns at his vehicle. The 4 gunmen then got into the vehicle where the 5th man was driving, and they tried to speed away. As they're speeding away, they're continuing to fire shots at Deputy Belaski's vehicle. Belaski is actually shooting back at them, and one of his bullets actually struck the driver. The man he hit, the driver, was Belisario Delgado. The bullet had entered right past his right ear, and he was killed instantly, causing the van to veer off and smash into a telephone pole. Deputy Belaski was shot 5 times. He had been shot in the left shoulder. He was shot in both forearms, the left elbow. He also had a gunshot to his face. So now you have other deputies arriving at the scene. You have Deputy Charles Hilly and Andy Delgado, who is not related to Belisario Delgado, the robber who was shot. Just coincidence, they had the same last name. Andy Delgado begins to fire at the 4 now men in the van, while the other deputy takes Belaski and he gets him out of there and gets him to a hospital ASAP. It is now a full-fledged shootout. The robbers are now firing not only at Andy Delgado, the officer who was still there. Now other deputies are arriving at the scene, and now they're just engaging in a firefight. So at this point, the 4 living bank robbers managed to steal a truck from a man who was just so happened to be parked at the intersection when all this was happening. They pointed a gun at him and said, "Get out of the vehicle." He does, and the 4 men get into the truck and they begin to speed away. This now leads to a full-on police chase. The cops are firing at the robbers. The robbers are firing back. They're shooting shotguns. They have very powerful weapons, the robbers do. The officers they did not have weapons at the same level as the robbers did. They were outgunned in that sense. The robbers also had homemade bombs that they were throwing out of their vehicle at all of the police and deputy vehicles that were chasing them. Explosions and gunfire. The suspects managed to get a pretty good distance ahead of the officers at this point, but they go to this rural road that has a dead end, and they purposefully, the robbers, get out of the vehicle and hide, because their plan was, we need to take these officers out now or we're never getting away. So they hid and waiting for the deputies to arrive so they could ambush them. At this point, a deputy named James Evans arrived at the scene where the 4 bank robbers were at now. James Bernard Evans was born on February 3rd, 1941. He was married, and him and his wife had their own son, and he also had 3 stepchildren from his wife's previous relationship. James was 39 years old at the time this all happened. He had been a sheriff's deputy for about 5 years at that point. He was a United States Army Vietnam veteran, and he was, by all accounts, a good guy. He was one of the good ones. When he arrives at the scene, however, he is completely outgunned and completely outnumbered. When he arrives, he is met with just a wall of bullets. I mean, just all of these men are firing towards him, and now other officers that are arriving there. He did manage to get several shots off from his sidearm, but unfortunately, he himself was shot multiple times, and then he was shot once through his head, which killed him instantly. All the other officers, they are armed with basic 38 special revolvers, handguns, and the robbers have M16s. They have 12-gauge shotguns. They are armed to the teeth. But when Deputy James McPheron arrived, he had a rifle on him. He began to fire towards the robbers. After he is firing at them with this rifle, he has now the strongest gun that the officers have at this point. The four robbers manage to sneak away, and they run and they flee. It is said, quote, "There would have been a lot more dead cops on that road if not for that weapon," end quote. That James McPheron really saved the day. I mean, truly. A lot of these officers, risked their lives. A lot of them took bullets. Thankfully, only one officer was killed. I mean, obviously not thankfully, because you wish you'd be alive, but there could have been a lot more, and thankfully there just wasn't. Now, also dead at the scene was another one of the robbers. His name was Manuel Delgado. He was the brother to the other man who was shot and killed, Belisario. He had been shot 4 times by, at this point, a 65-man Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department SWAT team that had arrived, and they just unloaded on these guys, and one of them managed to get hit 4 times and killed. Oh well. The following day, the 3 remaining bank robbers / murderers and gunmen, they were finally located and they were arrested. And this was done by the San Bernardino Assistant Sheriff Department. During the shootouts, there was a 12-year-old boy named Robert Oglesby who was just out there going on a bike ride with his friends. And during the shootout, he had been shot and his finger had, I guess, been shot off. But outside of that, he was lucky to survive. One of the suspects, a man named George Smith, was hit twice in the leg and the groin by Deputy Belaski, the first person to actually arrive at the scene, and 8 officers had also been wounded. Sheriff Deputy Glenn Belaski, like I mentioned, Sheriff Deputy Darrell Reed, Sheriff Deputy Rolf Parks, Sheriff Deputy Herman Brown, Sheriff Deputy Ken McDaniels, Sheriff Deputy Tony Reynard, California Highway Patrol Officer Bill Crow, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Deputy DJ McCarty. All of them had been shot, all of them hospitalized, and thankfully, all of them survived their injuries. Chris Harvin, one of the suspects, had been shot by Deputy Evans, the deputy who had been killed. He had been shot in his back, but survived. So, the 3 surviving suspects were George Wayne Smith and the brothers, Christopher and Russell Harvin. And there was a quote about them, and it went, quote, "After their capture, the suspects stated that their intent was to fight to the death," end quote. Meaning they fully prepared that if they were going to be met by police this day during this robbery, they were going to open fire. That was their goal, their plan. Deputy Belaski, the first to arrive again, he had recovered from his wounds he sustained in the shootout. He was awarded several decorations for his actions that day. He later became an officer in the U.S. Air Force, where he rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel, and now working as an electronic warfare officer. The 3 suspects, who were still alive, were all convicted of 46 felonies and sentenced to life in prison without parole. This included the charge of murder for the murder of Deputy Evans. Deputy Evans, a husband and a father whose kids now had to grow up without him. He risked his life, and his life was taken to stop these men who could have killed more people. There was a lot of issues with the fact that the deputies, the California Highway Patrol, etc., all of the different agencies that kind of arrived and helped with this, that before the one deputy arrived with the rifle, and before the SWAT team arrived and began a volley of fire at the robbers, that the officers were really outgunned. They did not have the proper weapons at that point to really combat these men who were just armed to the teeth. So in response to the fact that the suspects' weapons were far superior to that of the police responding to the incident, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department equipped their deputies with Ruger Mini 14s, chambered in .223 Remington, as well as the M16 and AR-15. Police departments began purchasing more powerful firearms and equipping surveillance helicopters with weapons, because also they had a surveillance helicopter there responding to the scene, and the assailants managed to shoot it down. No one was killed in that, but they did manage to destroy the helicopter or damage it pretty bad. There were also 33 police vehicles that had either been completely blown to pieces by these handmade bombs. There was also the other cars were just shot to pieces, the tires deflated, glass everywhere. So yeah, 33 total vehicles, including the helicopter, were destroyed or very badly damaged. Following the robbery, the Irvine Police Department uses the case to create a training video, which it sounds like that training video is actually still used to this day, which is a 1980 training video. There was a street in Norco that was named Deputy Evans Drive, which was in honor of Deputy James Evans, the one and only deputy or first responder to be killed in the incident. And this case, like I was kind of touching on with the guns, this case really sort of helped turn the tables on being better equipped. The police force, the deputies or sheriff's deputies, California Highway Patrol, etc. It led to being armed better. It led to them having a better response to these types of things. It could have been far deadlier. I mean, if you really think about it, the fact that only one officer was killed is kind of wild. 2 of the suspects were killed and 3 others were not. It's kind of unbelievable that those 3 men weren't killed either. Just judging by all the gunfire that was happening, they got lucky. I mean, not so lucky, because now they're in prison for the rest of their lives. And it was all for $20,000 in cash. They never got to spend a single penny of it. 2 of their own men died. A police officer, husband, father died for money that they would never spend. And that's just, why? Why do these things? It's frustrating. You talk about these types of stories all the time, not just bank robberies and just like murders and stuff. You always have to think of, but why? Like, what did it get you? What happened to you? Now that you're in prison for the rest of your life sucks now. For you, it's probably better if you're a murderer or one of these people. It's better for you if you were killed, because you wouldn't have to live with it, to deal with it anymore. And so why? What's the point? That's a question that will probably never be answered. Some people think they are invincible and that they can get away with it, but these men did not. And a good sheriff's deputy, one of the good ones, died in the process. And in the end, all of the officers who were shot and injured and the family of Deputy James Evans were able to get the justice they rightfully deserved. But that is it for this case, True Crime, Aruni, Dooney, Dingleberry Dongs. I hope you found it interesting. As usual, if you are new here, hello, my name is Mike. I tell true crime stories here on YouTube, obviously, multiple days a week. So please subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. Give the video a like, leave a comment so more people can see the video. Share it if you want to. I also tell short form true crime stories over on TikTok. You can find the link to my TikTok in the description of this video below in the link tree, or you can search Making a True Crimerer as you see here on the page, and you can find me that way as well. So feel free to follow if you want to. I do post compilation videos at the beginning of every month from my previous months of TikTok videos. So also in the link tree below, you're going to find my case list. It's public. You guys can see it. You can't add to it, but you can see it. It's in alphabetical order for the most part. If you don't see a name on that list that you would like me to cover, just send me a really quick email. My email is listed below. It's also in the document where that list is. So just send me the name of the case, where it happened, and when it happened, and I can add that name to my list. I do pick my cases typically at random. However, if you are a loved one to a missing or murdered loved one, let me know in that email, and I can make sure that case gets top priority. So, yeah. At any rate, that is it for this video, True Crime Maroonies. So until the next case, ta-ta for now. Rough. No. Okay. Bye.